One father, one son, without a home in the wild, face vicious animals and harsh wilderness. They only have each other and a book. This is Hobos and Literature, the Grapes of Wrath edition.
Well, my boy, we got a good meal for us tonight, and I want you to tell me something that you know. What's something that you know, son?
Well, The Grapes of Wrath is just, it's a great story about the contrast between poor people and the more educated, the richer people, I guess. Yeah, this is some really good chicken you cooked me. Thanks.
Yeah, I love these green beans. So, the Chodes, right? Tell me about their syntax and tone.
Sorry, I had some chicken stuck in my throat. Well, the Chodes, he starts off talking about them in the story, he uses, as I was saying, small, simple sentences because they're, as I've also said, they're uneducated, they're poor. Homeless, as I might add on to that. So, it's very interesting how he changes his syntax as he talks about the car dealership, and like he uses more complex sentences. And I'm just also thinking about the car dealership, talking about that part of the story. It's very interesting to think about the figurative language he uses. He talks, he uses a simile to compare the bank like it's a monster, because the bank is just preying on the poor, on the weak, on the homeless. So it's just a very interesting book to me about the different tone, how it changes, the syntax, how it changes, and the richness of the figurative language.
It's like a rich apple pie your old ma used to bake back when we were home. But now we're homeless.
And we have to eat chicken.
Chicken and green beans.
Give it here, son. What? Oh, man, you're such a character. I know what I'm going to talk about next. Character development, chapters 7 through 12 of The Grapes of Wrath. Now, we see several characters throughout the book. Notably, Tom Chode, our main character. And he doesn't really develop in chapters 7 through 12 because often Steinbeck talks about the peculiars and particulars of leaving and heading to California. But we do see several other characters introduced and developed, like Grandpa. Now, he's an ornery old cuss. You're all right there, son. He's just an ornery old fella. And at the start of the chapters, he's just so ready to get on to California, and I quote, he says, "I'm ready to stuff my mouth full of grapes and have the juice drip down my chin." But by the time they're ready to leave, he's like, "I don't want to go. I'm just going to live off the land." Which we can take this as him actually having fears behind his ornery old nature. So maybe he hides his feelings by being very ill-tempered, but he is in fact scared.
And smelling bad.
That's right. I bet he was just a dirty old man. And then we see Casey. And he used to be a preacher. And he's not going to be a preacher anymore. And so he says he believes in the holiness of man. But throughout the chapter, he just sees all the terrible things that happened to him that's been done by man. And he develops that way. We've been talking a lot about the Grapes of Wrath. Don't do that. That's our living room.
What?
Oh, Smallwood Jr. Sit down,
homeless.
son. Let me tell you a little story. So, John Steinbeck wrote this book, Grapes of Wrath, and it's just chock full of great ideas and themes. Let me tell you some themes. One of the overlying themes of the whole book is how just people are just bad to other people. And what is interesting is Casey, he used to be a preacher. And he comes and has dinner at the Jodes' house. And he's like, "I'm not going to say a prayer. Are you kidding me?" And he talks about how man is the only holy thing, and man is great. But as we go through chapters 7 through 12, we see that man is not that good to man. We see the car dealerships they're just terrible to the
That's
movers.
the one I was...
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
The car dealerships, like it just shows how like they're just mean to like they manipulated them.
Right.
They made them do what they wanted.
Right. Or when they go down to the brokers.
Yeah.
Yeah. They go and try and sell their possessions to get some money to go to California. But they don't ever get a good price, and they're so desperate, the Chodes end up selling like all their land and all their possessions for $18.
Have you ever had something like that happen to you personally, Father?
Yeah, this terrible man stole our home. Remember, you were
Yeah.
part of that. That's why we're homeless now.
Well, son, fire went out.
Probably that big snow we had last night.
California!
Hi, folks. This is my memoirs. If you're seeing this, it's the year 2094. A little Smallwood Jr., he's asleep. He's basking in his new wealth. We found this great house in California. He's asleep in his little baby crib. He's just so cute. And, I've just been thinking, and this is why I'm writing these memoirs, because I was thinking about those just grand travels we had on our way to California. Me and old Baxter, we were just going to snuggle up by our Jimmy Fallon's and light sticks, and we're just going to talk about just those times. Like, we just always, I'm going to sit you down, Baxter. Oh, yeah, okay. We always just talked about just John Steinbeck and mainly the Grapes of Wrath, and just wanted to go over that again, just because it just meant so much to me and Little Smallwood Jr. Like Theme. Theme was just one of the ones that always kept coming up. Little Smallwood Jr. just loves Theme. And we always address chapters 7 through 12, so I figured just why stop now? So chapters 7 through 12, we see, of course, the overarching theme of the Grapes of Wrath. One of the main ones is that just people are just always just terrible to people. And we see this addressed in chapters 7 through 12 when John Steinbeck will talk about the car dealerships and the scams that these people would do to get at these farmers who have to go to California. And they're selling them these cars. They're filling the radiators and the engines just with just cardboard and just all this stuff to scam these farmers. And then the brokers, when the farmers go and try and sell their possessions, they rip them off for just pennies at a time, just dollars. The Chodes go down and they get about $18 trying to sell off all their possessions. Pa Chode does that. And then you've got character development. Like we talked about, I think we all talked about old Grandpa Chode. He goes down. Oh man, just thinking about those times with Little Smallwood Jr. while we were homeless just cracks me up. We had such grand times. Anyway, Grandpa Chode. He starts off when we meet him. He's just typical old grandpa, chugging around, just kind of angry and ornery. But we see him. He quotes, "When we go to California, I'm going to fill my mouth full of grapes, and the juice is going to drip down my chin." But then, when his friend comes up while he's seeing him off, Grandpa Chode, he says, "Oh, I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to live off the land." And they actually have to put a sleeping medicine in his drink so he'll just stop whining and all this kind of stuff and just being outlandish Grandpa Chode. And we can interpret this as him actually being doubtful of them going to California, if they're going to make it. If he could be scared, but of course he's an old man. He's too brave, not brave. He's too prideful to show that he's scared, so he disguises it in his very disgruntled nature. Or Casey, we look at Casey, and we see that he
he's lost his scriptural faith, but he's gained faith in man. He says man is the only holy thing, and we don't exactly see his beliefs live out to that in these chapters, because he we see the brokers and the car dealer men, and they're just ripping people off left and right and left and right, and it just doesn't sit real well with Casey. And that'd be character development if I was going through like a rubric or something like that. I'd be addressing those. And lastly, rhetorical devices, mostly word choice and syntax and diction. If I were to read you some John Steinbeck Grapes of Wrath right now, I could read you a quote from Machode. Actually, I think that's what I'm gonna do. You know, when Steinbeck talks about Machode, he uses very like blunt words, very words that you'd associate with lower level class, hardworking people. So, like this quote, Ma was heavy, but not fat, with childbearing hips and work. She wore a loose Mother Hubbard of gray cloth, in which there had once been colored flowers, but the color was washed out now, so that the small flowered pattern was only a little lighter than the gray in the background. The dress came down to her ankles, and her strong, broad, bare feet moved quickly and deftly over the floor. Her thin, steel-gray hair was gathered in a sparse, wispy knot in the back of her head. So you see words like sparse or wispy or describing her as broad, or not fat, but you know, she gave birth to some children. She's not exactly like your high-end lady, but when he's talking about higher class people, he changes his words. They might be softer and more rounded and less brute-esque. But anyway, I don't even know if that's a word. I'm so tired. I think I'm gonna go take a nap.